Greetings, folks. This is Admiral Paco and Enrico Fermi, and I want to talk about one scene for hope. After several years of disruption, COVID, lockdowns, supply chain snafus, inflation, and of course the old standbys, war and climate change, hope reserves are running low. I, alongside many fellow YouTubers, want to bring attention to the stories that give us hope in times of trouble. Now, I usually talk about politics and history as post-fictional stories, but history is not only the recounting of events, it is also the story that we tell in recounting those events. Sometimes mythologized, sometimes just a loss of context, these historical retellings are just as important to source for hope as the fictional stories we tell. So, having said that, it is one of those stories from history that I want to talk about today. To assist in this endeavor, I'm including a song from the heavy metal band Sabaton. Their songs are about remembering, celebrating, or memorializing historical events and people. From the celebratory, like 82nd All the Way or The Red Baron, to the somber, such as The Price of a Mile, to the controversial, like Bismarck, Sabaton has not shied away from what they cover in song. But today, we are going to be talking about the Christmas Truce. After the failure of the German Schlieffen Plan, the Western Front of the Great War had become bogged down in the beginnings of trench warfare. The race to the sea had formed a front from the English Channel in the north to Switzerland in the south. On one side, the Germans. On the other, France, Belgium, and Britain. The last major action between the two sides had taken place over a month ago at the Battle of Ypres, but fighting continued. From the North Sea to the Alps, nearly 10 million men had been pitted against each other. With the end of 1914 a week away, those nations' armies, German, French, Belgian, and British, had suffered nearly 2 million casualties, including over 500,000 dead. When the war started, both the Central Powers and the Allies thought they would achieve victory by Christmas. Now that Christmas had arrived, both sides began to realize the war would not end anytime soon. As the generals reassessed strategy, the soldiers waited in the trenches. On the German side, candles were lit and Christmas trees decorated. The German soldiers sang Christmas carols, and the British responded with their own. The sporadic fighting that had continued since Ypres stopped.
Silence! Oh, I remember the silence on a cold winter day. After many months on the battlefield, and we were used to the violence, then all the cannons went silent, and the snow fell. Voices sang to me from no man's land. We are all friends. And today we're all brothers, tonight we're all friends. Our moment of peace in a war that never ends. Today we're all brothers, we drink and unite. Now Christmas has arrived and the snow turns the ground white. Hear carols from the trenches, we sing a holy night. Our guns laid to rest on what snow
100,000, mostly British and German soldiers, laid down their arms in the informal cessation of hostilities during the Christmas Truce of 1914. Gifts were exchanged between the two sides: food, tobacco, alcohol, even souvenirs. Games of football, soccer for my American viewers, were played in no man's land, some even between the opposing armies. But the Christmas Truce was not all fun and games. It also allowed for more somber activities. Both sides had many dead in no man's land, and the truce allowed for them to collect the fallen and bring them behind their own lines. In some places, joint services were held, British and German together, to celebrate Christmas and remember the dead. The soldiers knew their informal truce would not last forever. In most places, it only lasted through Christmas night, although in some, the truce stretched on until the new year. But for one moment, even after so much death and destruction, the men in the field, friends, brothers from foreign lands, made peace.
Now Christmas has arrived and the snow turns the ground white. On Christmas on the front line we walk among our friends. We don't think about tomorrow. The battle will commence when we celebrate your Christmas. We thought about our friends, those who never made it home when the battle had commenced.
Everything I said in this retelling of the Christmas Truce is true, though with some important context missing, because the truth is, throughout the war there were informal truces arranged by soldiers on both sides, the front lines, collectively known as a live and let live policy, especially on the Western Front. In the early days of the war, it even included some level of fraternizing in no man's land. Did this end the war? Did it bring about permanent peace? No. But for me, it brings hope. But this story, this song, and added context of the informal live and let live policies of soldiers on both sides of the trenches reminds me, is that the vast majority of people want to do good. Even in the middle of a war that had surely already killed friends or even family, when given the opportunity, most would choose not to take life. Even after so much loss, most wanted peace and reconciliation, not violence and revenge. It reminds me that it takes a real concerted effort to get most people to hate others. And while today there is no shortage of sellers for that hate, knowing that when push comes to shove, most people want to live peaceably together gives me hope for a brighter future. Things have been pretty rough recently, it's true. But things have been far darker in the past, and the humanity of humanity made it through to the other side. The Christmas Truce gives me hope and trust that we will carry our own humanity through our current crisis as well. And that despite the challenges, our best world is yet to come. Thank you for watching this one scene for hope. If you enjoyed it, please hit the like button. If you want to hear me talk about history and politics in the future, hit the subscribe and bell while you're at it. In the meantime, I already have several videos posted for you to enjoy or critique, and I invite your input in the comments below. Finally, if you're looking for additional historical music, check out Sabaton. Many of their songs are here on YouTube, and if you want some additional doses of hope, check out the playlist organized by the Costume Codex. Until next time, this was Admiral Paco.